They thought she was broken. Every combat drill, she kept falling asleep, while others pushed past their limits. Whispers spread, lazy, weak, dead weight. But no one knew the secret her body was hiding. 3 things were about to change everything. A truth buried since deployment, a live fire moment where sleep was no longer an option, and one order from a SEAL commander that would rewrite her fate, because just when they wrote her off, something happened no one saw coming. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from? Her name was Elena Ward. From far away, she looked like every other trainee, strong, sharp, and ready to fight. But when training started, something strange happened. While others pushed their limits, Elena's eyes grew heavy. Her steps slowed. Then, in the middle of the field, she dropped to the ground, asleep. The first time, people thought it was nerves. The second time, they laughed. By the third time, the whispers began. "She's weak." Dead weight. "She won't make it." The words followed her everywhere, louder than the sound of boots hitting the dirt. But one man wasn't laughing. Commander Marcus Hale kept watching her with cold, steady eyes. Inside the barracks, the gossip spread even faster. Private Luke Carver cracked jokes about her falling asleep on guard duty. Sergeant Tom Reyes shook his head, saying she was wasting everyone's time. Even at mealtime, soldiers shifted their trays away, as if being near Elena was shameful. She ate alone. She trained alone. She suffered alone. But Elena never argued back. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes carried a storm. Each time she stumbled, she stood again. Each time she failed, she lined up the next morning as if nothing happened. One night, when the others were asleep, Corporal Jenna Cross saw Elena sitting on her bunk. She wasn't resting. She wasn't reading. She was staring at a small folded photo, whispering words no one else could hear. What secret was she hiding? The next day, drills began again. Sweat poured down every face, boots pounded the dirt, rifles slammed against shoulders. And then, like before, Elena's knees buckled. She hit the ground, dust clouding the air. The squad laughed. "Told you she wouldn't last," someone said. But Commander Hale didn't laugh. The man known for his sharp commands and stone-hard discipline did something unusual. He pulled a black notebook from his pocket. Slowly, carefully, he wrote down Elena's name. The recruits exchanged looks. Why write her name? Was this the end of her training? Hale closed the notebook, his jaw tight, and whispered under his breath words only he could hear. Not yet. Night had fallen over the base, and the long rows of barracks were buzzing with restless energy. Soldiers kicked off their boots, the smell of sweat and dirt filling the cramped space. Gear clattered against metal racks, and the echo of laughter traveled down the room. Most were tired after the day's drills, but not too tired to whisper. And tonight, all whispers circled around Elena Ward. "She's gonna wash out before the week is done." Private Luke Carver sneered, his tone sharp and mocking. His words carried across the barracks. "She can't even stay awake during a drill. What happens if she's on watch? We'd all be dead before sunrise." A ripple of laughter spread through the room. Some slapped their bunks. Others shook their heads as if Elena was the punchline to a never-ending joke. Elena sat quietly on the edge of her bed. Her boots were still laced, her eyes locked on the floor. She didn't answer. She never did. Every insult bounced off her like raindrops on stone, or at least that's what she wanted them to believe. But behind her silence, something heavier than exhaustion pressed against her chest, a secret no one else knew. Sergeant Tom Reyes leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. His voice was calm but sharper than Carver's mockery. "Commander Hale is wasting his time on her," Reyes muttered. "Better she leaves now before she gets someone hurt." This time there was no laughter, only nods of agreement. In the eyes of most soldiers, Elena Ward was already finished. But not everyone joined in. From the far side of the room, Corporal Jenna Cross watched carefully. She didn't laugh. She didn't nod. She simply studied Elena in silence. Jenna noticed the way Elena's fists clenched, the way her shoulders stiffened whenever someone mocked her. That wasn't weakness. It was control. It was holding something back. And Jenna's instincts told her Elena was carrying a weight the others couldn't even imagine. Later that night, the barracks finally went dark. Snores filled the air, boots lined neatly by bunks, and silence slowly swallowed the room. Everyone slept, everyone except Elena. Jenna, still half awake, noticed movement. In the faint glow of a tiny lamp, Elena sat with her back against the wall, her face pale but focused. Her hands shook slightly as she pulled out a folded, worn-out photo from under her pillow. Jenna squinted, trying to see. She caught a glimpse of dusty uniforms, tired smiles, and soldiers standing together. They looked like a unit, a family forged in fire. Elena's lips moved in a whisper too soft for Jenna to hear. Her eyes shone, not with weakness but with grief. A grief that cut deeper than failure on a drill field. Before Jenna could make sense of it, Elena folded the photo quickly, slid it back under her pillow, and lay down, her secret hidden once again. By morning, the barracks exploded back to life. Boots hit the floor, metal clanked, and Carver's voice was the first to crack another joke at Elena's expense. Reyes shook his head, dismissing her as a lost cause. Most ignored her completely. But Jenna's thoughts lingered on what she had seen the night before. That photograph, those faces, the shine of unshed tears in Elena's eyes. Something inside Jenna whispered to her, Elena Ward is not what she seems. Morning drills began before the sun rose. Boots pounded against the dirt. Orders echoed across the training ground. But Elena Ward's mind was far away. She heard the shouts. She saw the glares. Yet her thoughts drifted back to a different time, a place burned into her memory forever. Long before she came here, Elena had been deployed overseas. She wasn't always the weak one everyone thought she was. Once she had worn her uniform with pride. Once her team had trusted her with their lives. But war changes people, and one night everything changed for Elena. That night had never left her. Not even now, surrounded by new faces who thought they knew her story. They didn't know the truth. It had been a mission gone wrong. Dust swirled through the air. Gunfire cut across the night. Her unit pushed forward, but Elena had felt the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her even then. She had fought it, struggled against it, but her body betrayed her. In the middle of chaos, her eyes had closed for only a second. Just 1 second. But in war, 1 second is enough to change everything. When she opened her eyes, it was already too late. Explosions thundered. The ground shook. Her brothers and sisters in arms were gone. The mission collapsed in fire and screams, and Elena carried that moment like a scar no one could see. Back on the training ground, she stumbled during a drill. Sergeant Reyes barked at her to move faster. Private Carver snickered loud enough for everyone to hear. Their voices stabbed at her, but none of them cut as deep as the voice inside her head. You failed them. You'll fail again. She blinked, forcing herself forward. Sweat dripped into her eyes. Her boots felt like lead, but she kept going, not because she believed in herself, but because she couldn't let the past happen again. Yet every time her body forced her to sleep, every time her eyelids grew heavy, Elena feared history would repeat itself. That night, in the quiet of the barracks, Elena opened the photo again. The faces stared back at her, the family she had lost. She traced their smiles with her finger. She remembered their voices, their laughter, the promises they had made. Corporal Jenna Cross, pretending to sleep, saw her again. She didn't say a word, but inside, questions burned. Who were those people in the photo? Why did Elena guard it like treasure? And why did she look at it with such pain? Jenna turned away, but she couldn't shake the feeling. Elena wasn't lazy. She wasn't weak. She was broken, but broken in a way that came from loss, not from lack of strength. And deep down, Jenna knew the day would come when that hidden past would collide with the present. And when it did, the whole unit would see Elena Ward in a way they never expected. The sun blazed down on the training field. Dust rose with every stomp of boots. Orders cut through the air like blades. The squad had been running drills since dawn, and sweat dripped from every brow. But all eyes kept sliding toward Elena Ward. She struggled again. Her steps dragged, her shoulders slumped. Sergeant Reyes barked at her. Move, Ward! You're slower than molasses. Laughter rippled across the line. Private Carver smirked. She'll fall asleep any second, he muttered. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Elena clenched her jaw. Her vision blurred. Her legs burned. But she pushed forward, one step at a time. No one knew her body was fighting a battle far bigger than the drill. The squad reached the obstacle course. Walls to climb. Mud pits to crawl through. Ropes to swing across. The kind of test that broke even the strongest soldiers. Reyes gave the signal and everyone charged. Elena hit the first wall. She gripped the wood, her arms trembling. Halfway up, her strength faltered. Her body begged her to stop, to rest, to close her eyes. But closing her eyes had already cost her too much once before. She gritted her teeth and pulled herself over the top. The squad jeered from below. Carver shook his head in disbelief. How is she even still here? The truth was, she wasn't climbing with muscle, she was climbing with memory. Flashbacks struck like lightning. Her old unit. The night of fire. The screams. She saw their faces every time her eyelids flickered shut. That fear drove her across the mud pit, her arms and legs caked in dirt. But exhaustion slammed back harder. Halfway through the ropes, her grip slipped. She dangled above the ground, arms shaking, vision fading. Gasps broke from the squad. For one terrifying moment, it looked like she would fall. Her fingers slipped one by one. And then, at the last possible second, a voice thundered across the field. "Hold on, Ward!" Commander Marcus Hale's voice cut through the chaos. He had been watching silently, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Now his voice carried power, authority. Something inside Elena snapped awake. Not anger. Not pride. Something deeper. She locked her grip again, muscles screaming. With one final burst of strength, she swung across and landed hard on the other side. The squad stood in stunned silence. Carver's smirk vanished. Reyes blinked in surprise. Even Jenna Cross, who had kept her doubts quiet, felt her chest tighten with a strange sense of hope. Elena lay in the dirt, chest heaving, hands shaking. She had made it, but just barely. And as she caught her breath, Commander Hale's eyes locked on hers. His next order would change everything. The field was quiet. Not even the wind dared to move. Elena Ward lay in the dirt, her body shaking after the obstacle course. Around her, the squad whispered in disbelief. No one had expected her to finish. Some thought she would quit. Others thought she would collapse. Yet here she was, alive, breathing, and still fighting. Commander Marcus Hale stepped forward. His boots crunched against the gravel. His shadow fell over Elena. Every soldier straightened as he approached. Hale was a man who never wasted words, never praised easily, and never ignored weakness. He crouched beside Elena, his eyes steady and sharp. "Ward," he said. His voice was low but carried like thunder. "Yes, sir," she gasped, barely able to lift her head. What he said next would decide whether she stayed or was thrown out for good. Hale stood tall and looked at the squad. "Every one of you thinks she's weak," he said. His voice cut through the air like a blade. "You think she doesn't belong. You laugh when she stumbles. You mock when she struggles. But you missed something." The soldiers shifted nervously. Carver smirked, ready for Hale to finally dismiss her. Reyes crossed his arms, waiting to hear her fate. Hale's eyes narrowed. She hasn't quit, not once. Not when her body begged her to stop. Not when her pride was torn apart. She kept moving forward. "And that makes her stronger than half of you standing here." Gasps rippled through the squad. Carver's grin froze. Jenna Cross felt her chest swell. But Hale wasn't done. He had one more order, an order that would test Elena in a way no drill ever had. He turned back to Elena. "Ward, from this moment on, you don't sleep when you're tired," he said. His voice was hard, his words deliberate. "You sleep only when I tell you to. You train when I say train. You rest when I say rest. You fight when I say fight." Elena blinked up at him. Confusion flashed across her face. The squad exchanged glances. An order like this was unusual, even harsh. But Hale didn't back down. "You've been ruled by your weakness for too long," Hale continued. "From now on, I control it. And if you can trust me, if you can obey me without question, I will make you into a soldier this unit will never forget." Mini Cliffhanger 3, the silence stretched. Elena's answer could either save her or seal her end. Her lips trembled, but her voice came out clear. "Yes, Commander." The words hung in the air. They were more than obedience. They were a promise. Hale's gaze hardened, but his voice carried a rare spark of respect. "Good, because from today, Elena Ward's fight begins." The squad stood frozen. None of them knew what Hale saw in her. None of them understood his plan. But deep inside, Jenna Cross felt a chill run down her spine. Mini Cliffhanger 4. She realized that whatever commander Hale had set in motion would change. Elena's fate, and maybe all of theirs, forever. The next morning, the air was heavy with tension. The squad gathered on the live fire range, where bullets cracked through the sky and smoke hung low over the ground. Today was no ordinary drill. Today they would train with live rounds. Mistakes here weren't just embarrassing, they could be deadly. Commander Hale stood at the front, arms crossed. His eyes swept over the unit before settling on Elena Ward. "Today," he said, his voice like steel, "you will learn what it means to fight when fear is real." Every soldier stiffened. Carver whispered, "She'll never make it through this." Reyes grunted in agreement. Even Jenna Cross bit her lip, worried. Elena's hands trembled as she gripped her weapon. Her heart pounded like a drum. This wasn't just about drills anymore. This was survival. And deep down, she knew, if she failed today, no order could save her. The whistle blew. The squad dropped to the ground as live rounds exploded against metal targets. The sound was deafening. Dirt sprayed in every direction. Elena crawled forward, her elbows digging into the earth. Her rifle clutched tight. "Stay low," Hale barked. She obeyed, forcing her body to move. But exhaustion stalked her like a shadow. Her muscles screamed. Her eyelids threatened to close even now with bullets snapping above her head. Carver laughed from 2 positions ahead. "Told you she'd freeze." But Elena didn't freeze. She gritted her teeth, pressed her cheek to the dirt, and fired. The shot rang out, hitting the target clean. Gasps rippled down the line. Even Reyes raised an eyebrow. For the first time, the squad saw a glimpse of the soldier Elena used to be. The course grew harder. Barbed wire to crawl under. Targets popping up without warning. Smoke grenades clouding the air. Elena moved slower than the others, but she moved with focus. Each step, each shot carried the weight of her past. Her mind flashed back to that night overseas, the chaos, the screams, the split second that had cost lives. Her chest tightened, but Hale's words echoed inside her. "You fight when I say fight." So she fought. She rolled, aimed, and fired again. The target fell. Another step forward. Another breath survived. And then, just as she cleared the wire, disaster struck. A rifle jammed, not hers, but Carver's. Panic flashed across his face as his weapon clicked, uselessly in his hands. Live targets still moved ahead, and the squad couldn't advance without cover fire. "Carver, clear it!" Reyes shouted. But Carver fumbled, fear in his eyes. Without thinking, Elena slid beside him. Her hands moved fast, her eyes sharp. She yanked the rifle, cleared the jam, and shoved it back into his grip. Carver froze. He hadn't expected her to save him. "Move!" Elena barked, her voice steady, commanding. Carver blinked, then obeyed. The squad surged forward again. And in that moment, for the first time, the whispers around Elena Ward began to change. That night, the squad returned to the barracks after the live fire test. The air was thick with surprise. No one laughed at Elena Ward this time. No one dared. She had hit her targets. She had saved Carver when his rifle jammed. For the first time, whispers carried a different weight. "Did you see her shoot?" One soldier muttered. "Yeah, I didn't think she had it in her," another replied. Carver, usually the loudest, stayed silent. His face was pale. He hadn't told anyone, but deep down he knew Elena had saved his life. Without her, he might not have walked off that range. But while the squad's whispers were changing, Elena's secret was still buried, waiting to surface. Later, when the lights went out, Corporal Jenna Cross couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the photo she had seen Elena hold at night. Finally, she gathered her courage and spoke into the darkness. "Ward," Jenna whispered. "That picture, who are they?" The barracks was quiet except for the sound of breathing. Elena didn't answer right away. For a long time, Jenna thought she would stay silent like always. But then Elena's voice came low and shaky. "They were my unit." Jenna turned her head. "Your old unit?" Elena pulled the photo from under her pillow. In the faint light of the lamp, Jenna saw it clearly this time. Faces of men and women in uniform, smiles full of pride. "They're gone," Elena whispered. "All of them. Because I closed my eyes for 1 second. 1 second too long." Jenna's heart sank. The weight Elena carried was heavier than anyone had imagined. Elena's hands shook as she spoke. "We were deep in enemy territory, exhausted, pushed past every limit. I tried to fight it, but I fell asleep. Just for a moment. When I woke up, the world was fire. The mission collapsed. My brothers and sisters," her voice cracked. "They never came home." Jenna's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to tell Elena it wasn't her fault. But the pain in Elena's eyes was raw, unhealed. "I've carried it every day," Elena said. "That's why I can't stop this. I can't fail again. I won't let it happen twice." And in that confession, Jenna finally understood why Elena fought so hard against sleep, even when her body begged for it. For the first time, Jenna whispered back, "You're not broken, Ward. You're carrying ghosts. But maybe you don't have to carry them alone." Elena looked at her in silence, unsure if she could believe it. From the shadows of the barracks, another voice spoke. It was Carver. His tone wasn't mocking this time. "She saved me today. She saved all of us. She's not weak." The room went quiet. Dozens of eyes turned toward Elena. No one laughed. No one sneered. Something had shifted. And though Elena still felt the weight of her past, she realized for the first time her secret was no longer hers alone. The next dawn came with no warning. The squad was ordered to the training ground, their boots stomping in rhythm as the sun barely touched the horizon. This time, Commander Marcus Hale waited for them at the center, arms folded, his face unreadable. "Today is different," Hale announced. His voice carried across the field. "This is not about strength. This is not about speed. This is about survival. One mistake and your whole team pays the price." The squad stiffened. Whispers spread. A survival test meant endurance, strategy, and teamwork. But it also meant the weak would be exposed. Everyone glanced at Elena Ward. No one knew this was the test Hale had designed just for her. Hale set the rules. The squad had to navigate a grueling course through the forest. Obstacles, traps, and timed challenges waited at every turn. Failure wasn't just personal. It meant the entire team would be marked as failed. "Work together," Hale ordered. "Or don't bother finishing." The squad set off. Sweat poured down faces, mud clung to boots, and branches clawed at uniforms. Carver complained under his breath, but even he kept pace. At first, Elena lagged, her steps heavy. Reyes rolled his eyes. "Here we go again," he muttered. But as the course grew harder, something changed. Elena's sharp eyes spotted a tripwire before anyone else. She shouted, "Stop!" Just in time. The squad froze, staring at the wire inches from Reyes's boot. He blinked, stunned. "She just saved me." For the first time, they weren't mocking her. They were listening. Hours dragged on. The sun beat down, the forest air thick and heavy. Soldiers stumbled, grunted, cursed under their breath. Carver twisted his ankle crossing a ditch. He fell hard, groaning. The squad hesitated. Time was running out. "Leave him," someone whispered. But Elena knelt beside him, slinging his arm over her shoulder. She half dragged, half carried him forward, her own body screaming in pain. "We finished together," she said, her voice firm. Carver's face burned with shame, but he couldn't argue. The squad watched in silence, their doubts slipping away. Every step she took with Carver at her side turned whispers into respect. Finally, the squad reached the last challenge, a steep cliff wall, ropes hanging down. Their bodies were spent. Their lungs burned. One by one, they climbed, dragging themselves upward. Elena was last. Her arms shook. Her vision blurred. Below her, Commander Hale watched with cold eyes. Above her, the squad leaned over the edge, shouting, "Come on, Ward! You've got this!" Elena dug deep. She thought of her fallen unit. She thought of the photo under her pillow. She thought of Hale's order, "You fight when I say fight." With a cry, she pulled herself over the top and collapsed beside her squad. And as she lay in the dirt, gasping for air, she realized this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of the soldier she was meant to be. The forest was silent when the squad stumbled back to base. Mud covered their uniforms. Scratches lined their arms, and exhaustion weighed on every step. But there was no laughter, no mocking voices anymore. All eyes turned to Elena Ward. For the first time, she wasn't walking behind them. She was walking with them. Carver, still leaning slightly on her shoulder, muttered, "Couldn't have made it without you." His voice carried more respect than any salute. Commander Hale stood waiting. His arms folded, his gaze sharp as ever. He said nothing at first, letting the silence stretch. Then he stepped forward. What Hale said next would decide whether Elena had finally earned her place or lost it forever. "You carried your team," Hale said flatly. "You spotted danger when others were blind. You dragged a soldier when most would have left him. You proved me right." The squad blinked, stunned. Hale rarely praised anyone. His words landed like thunder. Elena's throat tightened. She stood taller, shoulders back, even though every muscle ached. Carver gave a half smile. Reyes nodded once, almost grudgingly. Even the quiet soldiers, who had barely spoken to her since day one, looked at her differently now. The weight of their judgment had lifted. Hale turned to the squad. "This woman is no weak link. She is your backbone." The same squad that once mocked her now looked, ready to follow her into fire. That night, Elena sat alone outside the barracks. The stars shone above, clear and cold. She pulled the faded photograph from her pocket, the one of her old unit, the one she had carried through every drill, every tear, every sleepless night. She whispered, "I didn't quit. Not this time." Behind her, footsteps crunched. Carver approached, awkward as ever. He scratched his neck. Ward, thanks. You saved my hide today. She smiled faintly. That's what squads are for. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Carver gave her a sharp nod, the kind soldiers give when words aren't enough. The respect she had craved was no longer distant. It was right there, earned in sweat and pain. Days turned into weeks. Training didn't get easier, but something had shifted. When the alarm rang for drills, Elena wasn't the one falling behind. She was the one pushing forward. When others stumbled, she offered a hand. When fear crept in, her steady voice cut through it. Commander Hale watched from the shadows, pride hidden behind his stern face. The squad had changed because she had changed. And Elena Ward finally understood. She wasn't just surviving the program. She was becoming the soldier her fallen unit had believed she could be. This was not the end of her story. It was the birth of a legend that no one, least of all herself, had seen coming.